This short video will demonstrate how to populate the required fields to successfully undertake a takeoff for a single-story extension in the Raptor estimating software. For demonstration purposes, the single-story extension will be similar to this, and all the critical measurements have been recorded for inputting the required values in certain sections. Firstly, fill out all relevant details on the details form, as it is these fields that populate the many reports that are produced at the end of the estimate. Special attention should be made to the start date, as this is required to calculate the work schedule. And also the job type should be selected from the drop-down, as this dictates the payment schedule that will be generated. A branch must also be selected to apply material costs for a more accurate materials total. Then, Start Quote requires clicking to generate a new quote. The software is set up to follow the more common build processes. However, again for demonstration methods, I may jump around a little to try and show what the program is populating in the background, from entering values in certain boxes. The linear length of the foundation needs to be added here, along with the depth from ground level, and number of internal or external corners and internal foundations if applicable. This has generated a cubic meterage of concrete needed to form the foundation. Throughout the program, the defaults are set to the most common construction specifications to save time, but all these fields can be altered to the particular project's requirements. For ease of use or understanding, many sections provide pictures to populate fields that can be transferred to the pricing sheet once Enter is pressed. As you can see, populating the red boxes above has given costs for associated setting out materials and labour. Plant hire and labour to be used for the particular area of the job can be added as per user's judgment, as shown here with the auto level. There is the option to alter the personnel required to undertake any specific job within the estimate by dropping down the trade list until the trade required can be selected. As shown, the measurements earlier in this section have generated an amount of cubic meter waste which needs to be carted away. The program works out how many, in this instance skips, are required to dispose of the created soil. Again, like all yellow sections, the actual product or plant or material can be altered to suit what you require. The blue boxes are generally populated upon the user's judgment. If manual excavation is required, in addition to the plant hire or as a separate cost as maybe the site cannot be accessed by plant, then the red question mark can be pressed and the manual dig option can be selected. And again, this has been worked out by the program in relation to how much soil a person can load into a skip per day manually. If later on it is not required, you can simply untick it again through the red question mark. Concrete has been added in the Fill of Foundations section. Clicking the question marks provides valuable information and pictures to explain what the section is referring to, and the red question marks actually allow the user to alter what the program is reading so it can then calculate what materials, etc. are required if the situation digresses from the norm. The Yes/No boxes allow the user to select or deselect certain items depending on the build process. As already touched upon, the blue question marks offer information onto that particular area of work to aid the user throughout the estimate. At the end of every section, the total costs are displayed and broken down into plant, material, labour and hours taken. The ground floor section refers to works up to DPC, so external or internal wall lengths need to be populated. Again, clicking the pictures not only shows exactly what you are calculating, but gives you options to change construction, as in this example, brick or block to walls up to DPC rather than all brick or all block. If the ground floor was a concrete slab, the meter squared should be entered here, which again generates spoil to be carted away and adds the sub-base fill, blinding sand, and concrete and insulation to the ground floor. This project requires block and beam flooring, however, so the slab area can be removed. To add a block and beam floor, the section needs to be opened and the length and width of the floor area entered, and the length of the beam to suit as best it can. As you can see, whilst scrolling, costs have been added for the blocks and the beams and labour to manoeuvre them. Associated items have been costed, and all that is required is to count the number of crank vents and air bricks required and enter into the blue boxes. If there was a large area of block and beam floor construction, lifting machinery can be added specifically to this scope of works. Having block and beam creates a void which requires covering with either a concrete weed membrane or a polythene weed membrane, and either can be chosen by selecting yes or no as shown. Again, the ground floor costs are broken down, like at the end of every other section. Jumping around the program, the block and beam area will require screed and insulation, so the meter squared area has been worked out by the software and now populates the screed section in the plastering, where the depth of screed and the type of insulation can be selected. The magnifying glass feature helps users when scrolling through large product libraries, and again can be used in most sections. The wall section of the software is next in the build process, so wall length and height need to be added and wall construction type selected. As shown here, the walls are of block and block construction, and they will receive external render later on in the build.
The other areas of wall red boxes are used for gable ends and like where masonry works are required, but associated works are not required, i.e. plastering, painting, skirting, etc.
As the program shows, block work material and labour costs have been added, and please note the number of blocks, sand, cement, DPM, insulation, wall ties, etc., as this will change when windows are added later in the program. Again, the ratio of cement to sand can be altered to suit the build spec. Again, actual product can be altered, like cavity wall insulation, to meet the build requirements. Please notice the meterage of masonry walling that the software has automatically added scaffold, plastering, skirting board and decorating. If cladding to the external wall was required, that could have been added in this section. Additional masonry items can also be added to include wall joining profiles as selected here. Again, the wall section total costs are shown at the end of the section. Windows need to be added next, so select how much they cost per meter squared to estimate cost and input the description and sizes, and let the program work out how much the windows and doors for your project will cost. The software has now automatically added lintels to suit the opening sizes in the lintels section. Concrete lintels and structural steel can also be added in this section if required. Please note that if we return to the wall section, the number of blocks has been reduced, sand and cement has been reduced, yet wall ties have increased because, like the picture depicts, quantities increase round the new formed window reveals. There is, at the end of every section, a pencil facility that allows pertinent notes to be made to the estimate to provide clarity in areas where things may not be as clear as they could be with the build methods and spec. Upper floors are not required within this estimate, so the section is better off closed. The roof section is a large section, and again the pictures will prove invaluable in selecting the roof type. The user is required to select apex or lean-to roof, then rafter or truss roof, and this then allows the actual roof shape to be selected. Once this has been selected, the actual timber sizes can be accessed and selected before any measurements are added to the pricing sheet.
The pitch, span, soffit width and length are all required for the program to work out the correct amount of timber, insulation, plastering, gutter, soffit, fascia, barge board and roof covering to the particular roof. Additional rafters can be easily added, if required, round Velux or dormer structures.
The type of ceiling, whether conventional or vaulted, can be altered as this affects the amount of insulation that will be required, and the insulation type will alter dependent on this process.
Velux windows and flashing kits can be added in this section, as well as soffits, fascias and barge boards, and selected dependent on the material they are made from.
The roof covering is all worked out from the earlier dimensions entered in the roof structure, so all that is required is to select the actual type of roof covering if known. As shown, all the materials associated with the roof covering have been added, including tile battens, membrane ridge, verge and tiles.
As we selected a gable to abutment roof, the lead has been added at this abutment and sealant.
And dry verge systems are added as default, but can be removed if bedded ridge and verge are preferred by simply clicking cement instead of dry. Flat roofs are not required, so might as well be closed down. The guttering lengths have been calculated again from the roof measures earlier. However, the number of downpipes and gutter runs need to be populated in the red boxes. Downpipes length also has to be manually added. Any stud walls, stairs, decking to joists would be added in first fix carpentry section, and the quants of timber, plasterboard, skirting, painting, etc. would automatically be populated. But in this example, there are no internal stud walls. However, the plasterboard to our roof ceiling has been added, so again the type of ceiling requires specifying, as the quants may alter dependent on the overall size. For competent professional plumbers, the first fix plumbing section may be populated if pipe runs, drops and rad positioning are known, but in many cases they are not, so a PC sum can be offered on a meter squared cost and then discussed with the client if required. Again, electrical layouts are not always available or decided, so number of sockets etc. can be assumed, but inevitably will always be costed as a PC sum in these cases. However, if there is an electrical layout, the boxes populated in the first fix electrical section will automatically grab the desired second fix item in the second fix electrical solution later in the program. Alterations to existing structures can be costed, but are generally difficult to quantify, so a demolitions calculator has been added, which contains demo costs at industry rates to give a cost which can be added manually to the alterations section to try and gauge a more accurate alterations cost. New openings and removing walls are a pre-populated option, and size of opening can be altered by reflecting number of hours as shown by utilizing red question mark. Again, if two-man job, simply select a gang from the trade drop-down. All types of plastering to new internal walls can be catered for just by opening up the plastering walls section and selecting the type of finish required. Where there are existing internal walls that need replastering, this section of works can be populated. As you can see, all the associated wall plastering materials have been added. If there are external walls that require rendering, these can be added here. As soon as Enter is pressed, all the materials, labour and hours are populated. The type of render can also be selected here. Screed has been added as mentioned earlier, and ceilings have been skimmed where plasterboards added in first fix carpentry section. Again, the section totals have been added together. Second fix plumbing allows the addition of radiators, boilers and sanitary ware if required, and is generally a PC sum. Many products are added as an allowance, as actual brand type of product is often not decided in the initial stages of estimating. There are also additional lines to allow PC sums for features that are growing ever increasingly popular, for example underfloor heating and ground source heat pump. Second fix electrics self-populates from the fields entered in the first fix electrics section. Second fix carpentry will add doors automatically if/and door casing or concrete lintels had been added in the earlier sections and as outlined before skirting board was added a while ago in conjunction with new external walls. Curtain battens have also been added where new windows are required. Drainage needs to be measured and entered into the pipe run box as shown, as with inspection chamber and soakaway. This again generates spoil, which needs carting away, so digger and dumper will be required, and the count associated items with the pipes and populate the blue boxes.
If the actual dig depths of the trenches etc. are known, which is pretty rare in most occasions at this stage of the build,
then clicking on the red question mark next to the excavator module shows you what the defaults are and what the user can change if required. Any sections that do not require costing, for example, pathways, drives, landscaping, etc., should be closed down if not relevant. Decorating, as again mentioned earlier, has been added to any new elements to the build automatically. Again, there are sections for all build aspects, but leave closed the ones that are not relevant to the job in hand. There is even a section where professional service costs that may be required can be added. The final section allows PC sums to be added, which will add costs to be added to the takeoff where the exact cost may be unknown.